We'll move on to our first discussion. It has to do with the price hike in airline fares. Airlines have actually recorded a drop in passengers following the recent increment in price, with the one-way economy ticket selling for 50,000 naira. Nigerians have criticized the sudden spike in the prices of airline tickets as well. And before now, the economic class fares hovered between 23,300 naira and 48,000 naira. Although rates rose to as much as 70,000 naira during the last festive season, even to 100,000 naira. But then by the weekend, the prices of air tickets of major companies such as Air Peace, Ibom Air, Max Air, Aero Contractors, Dana, Asman Air, and among others, rose to a minimum of 50,000 naira. Director of News Voice of Nigeria, Ben Shemang, shares his experience previously on Daybreak.
I was in Lagos. I spent almost a week. I returned last night. I went to Lagos, to and fro. It was 50,000, 25. Suddenly, to now go to Lagos, come back, is 100,000 naira. Just like that. I think we need this price control board. It shouldn't just be for commodity. It should be for service. So that an association, a body will just not wake up. One day, one man feels, look, let me just increase the price of this, and it stands.
Aviation analyst Godi K joins us now to talk more on, this particular issue, affecting the aviation, sector. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning. How are you all?
Fine, thank you.
Wonderful.
All right, now, please, can you tell us what the reason is behind the hike? Because we've seen, a hike in road transportation, and right now we're seeing a hike in, air price and everything, even though we know the reason for road transportation hike is the fact that, there's a lot of bad petrol or no fuel at all, in the country. Is it the same? Is there like a correlation when it comes to, airfare as well?
Oh, well, the airlines are claiming that aviation fuel, doubled in price. And nobody has explained to this nation the reason. The importance of those commodities hiking the prices on a daily basis. So if it is true that aviation fuel is gone double, it's a major cost in the operation of airlines. Airplanes consume a lot of those products, and then it adds almost 45–50% to the cost of every flight you do from point A to point B. Wow. And so it may not be easy for airlines to be paying those kind of monies for purchase of aviation fuel at the rate they are discussing right now. I think as of 2 days ago, I read in one of the newspapers that it's gone as high as 400 and
between 420 and 450 naira.
Yes, per liter. That's horrible. Well, the authorities will need to check and find out what's driving it up to the skies, and see if they can take them all out and bring the prices back to acceptable limit. Unfortunately, my observation is that those that should do something are laid back. That's my observation. They are really laid back.
All right. Now, we'll also join, to get other perspectives, we'll join virtually our aviation correspondent, Abdul Latif, who is joining us from Lagos, to also give us his own perspectives from what's happening over there. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Yeah, good morning.
Our heads around the recent developments, over there in Lagos, as far as this recent spike that we are seeing in ticket fares.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the increment in airfare is something that came with a lot of people as a surprise. People didn't expect it, and just like it was rightly observed, a two-way ticket used to be between 50,000 naira or maximum 70,000 naira. But all of a sudden, we had a one-way ticket jumping to 50,000 naira, and which is economy. And and I must also point out also that even on this same flight, you have somebody, some passenger who even pay close to 70, 80,000 naira on the same flight. That is if they're not booking on the same day. Hello?
Have there been any form of statement by, the regulatory authority with respect to this? And I mean, who do Nigerians look to, in this sense?
Yes, the regulatory authority, the NCA, which is the body in charge of regulating the entire activities in the aviation sector, we have had calls to speak with the DG, and the response was that, yeah, which we have always said, is that the airfares are deregulated, that they don't have control over airfares. That airfares are basically determined by market forces. That is, the airline are expected to look at their economic realities as far as their operation is concerned, and then come up with a price that they think is sustainable to their businesses and so on. So, but one thing that the FAA also pointed out is that it will not be right for a group of airlines to come up as a cartel and fix prices. That basically is anti-competition, and that is exactly what they are looking at in conjunction with the Federal Competition and Consumer Control Commission. And just like you know that it takes two to tango, the airlines too have also come up with their own position. Yes, they raise a lot of issues about aviation fare, just like the pricing of that which has virtually quadrupled. Yeah, we've been monitoring the trends of aviation fuel. We understand in some period, like about 5 years ago, it used to be around 110 naira per liter to 180 naira per liter. And even from our
So
findings, as
now,
at last year, it
in terms of
was
supply
around
of this
200
aviation
naira.
fuel, are there gaps? Are there problems with the supply chain of the aviation fuel that is resulting in this? At least for, the premium motor spirit, PMS, that we are dealing with. We understand that there's been this, adulteration of about 100 liters, 100 million liters, of fuel. And so we can understand, what is driving the scarcity and the hike and everything. But with the aviation fuel, was there a disruption in the supply chain as well, or what is causing the hike in the price of the aviation fuel?
Yeah, basically there is really no difference, because it is the same set of people that deal with PMS. They also sell Jet A1, which is the aviation fuel that we talked about. But basically, what we see here is yes, if you say there are some control mechanisms that are put in place in terms of regulating the price of PMS. This is what we don't see in aviation fuel. The marketers are allowed to go and source dollars on their own to import this fuel. So once they are able to to source the required forex that they need to import this fuel, definitely they have to go elsewhere, probably to the black market, where some of them will even buy dollar to as much as 570, even 600 naira at time per dollar. So basically, they build some of these things in their prices of fuel, and then it becomes an issue of survival of the fittest. Because what they do is, before we used to have instances where marketers would give fuel to airline operators, probably, and collect their money after maybe a week or even 2 weeks after, depending on the agreement negotiation they have with the airline. But this time around, what they do is you pay as you go. If you don't have your money on ground, you cannot
Surprising
get
is
fuel.
that,
And
we've
that is
seen
where the
the
problem comes from.
increase in
Yes.
the price of dollar. I mean, that's no news. It's not, it didn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen day before yesterday. We've not seen that increase. And then now all of a sudden, is there a link between some of the decisions of the central bank recently on, ending the issuance of a dollar to banks and even the BDCs as well? Is there a correlation somewhere?
Yeah, definitely there has always been, because the supply of dollar has always not been adequate. But that is what the operators are complaining about. For instance, now if they go to a bank now and say, okay, I need $100,000, probably the least they can get, as some of them claim, will be $10,000. So yes, the gap of $90,000 we have to be sourced elsewhere. So if they don't
Okay,
have the
I think,
amount of dollars they need to operate,
yes, thank you so much, Abdulatif, for your perspective on this issue. We hope to have you, very, very soon. All right, we'll come back to Mr. Gordy, our guest in the studio. And what I want to actually know is, right now, airlines operating in Nigeria are experiencing low load factor. And, they're shunning airlines because they can't afford the amount, that's actually placed on the tickets. Now, does that actually make business sense for these airline operators to take, even if it's just one person, to travel from, point A to point B?
Absolutely not. It doesn't make sense. But that's the beautiful thing about the economics of demand and supply. If the airlines price themselves out of the market, those that they need to get on their business will withdraw from them, and then soon they're going to run back to an appropriate pricing that will, encourage people to patronize them. So these are forces that are playing, right up and down, and the unfortunate thing about, on the peculiar thing, that has to do with the Nigerian environment is that there's so much corruption in the system and so much loose cash flowing around. And so you're not able to, I just heard you ask questions about the Forex and stuff. No matter how much money you dump into this country. If America, for instance, United States of America, let me use that extreme case to give you an example, decides to move half of the volume of money, volume of dollars existing in its, central bank, and say, hey, Nigeria, here it is. I tell you what, in 2 weeks, the volume of cash lying here and there would suck them all up. That money would, no matter how many trillion dollars it comes out to, would disappear. I'm just giving you, an insight into the strength of the negative force that is, driving this whole thing that is messing us up as a people and as a nation. If we do not get serious and sincerely, without fear or favor, deal with, corruption in Nigeria in a very ruthless manner, believe you me, we just go on singing this song on daily basis and sliding down, the hill until we hit the bottom. We're almost at the bottom, by the way. You can't explain any better why things like this are going on. That's my opinion. I think that this whole thing is going on because we're not paying attention to.
So you believe it's because of the corruption in the system, and that's why we're seeing this happen. But these are business people who want to make profit,
Yeah.
isn't it? How do we draw the lines between them making profit and having a good business, environment to thrive? In this sense, they seem to be in a tight corner, right?
Yes.
Now, they have to break even as they do their business. But again, the cost of the aviation fuel is not in their favor. Neither is the, say, central bank, for instance, in terms of providing forex, is on their side. So how do they survive in this kind of environment?
That was why I explained to you that they find themselves in between what we usually call the devil and the deep blue sea. Wherever, just like what was that writer that said, this is a devil's alternative, that whichever option I choose, men will die. I mean, is it Frederick Forsyth? I think it was Frederick Forsyth, one of his bestseller books, and he titled "The Devil's Alternative." That's where the airlines find themselves. They are between the devil and the deep blue sea. And so, what I think will happen is that when they continue to take these prices up, and those that can afford them continue to buy, and then they find out that they are not operating profitably anymore, because to tell you the truth, in order to move an average jumbo jet, say from Abuja to Lagos profitably, you must have a minimum of 80%, of the seats occupied. Minimum 80%. And so if it's full, well and good. But anytime you drop to 60, 50%, you virtually pay the bills for that flight. That is the fuel, maintenance of the airplane, the payment of of the crew allowances, the payment of the landing fees. There are all kinds of fees. By the way, the NCAA and the FAN are not making things any easier, because there are all kinds of fees that they pay.
Well,
so,
doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of why the federal government exempted these airlines from actually paying VAT?
Oh, well, I do not think the issue of VAT, is going to put enough money in their pockets to really get out of this mess. It's a big mess. Very honestly, it is a big mess. I do understand, what they're going through, and I share their feelings. Unfortunately, the idea of shooting up, the airfares is also counterproductive, because at the moment, the people are already taking the risk of, traveling by road, rather than flying, because it's outrageous to think that if I have to go to Lagos and run back to Abuja, I budget 120,000 naira at the minimum, especially if you're going to be spending a night somewhere. Then you're talking about 150,000. And how many people earn this kind of money monthly?
There's actually a prediction that, these airfares would actually increase in a few weeks or even months to come, because, the cost of operations is also increasing. And
well, yeah, people are looking forward to the Easter, period, and some individuals will be forced to move from one part of the nation to the other. But my attitude to it, and what I say to people, there is nothing that cannot wait, except when it has to do with health and human life. Every other thing on the surface of the earth can wait.
All right, now
If you can't deal with it, put it aside.
All right, now briefly before we let you go, let's
Yes.
get your own thoughts about one of the crises we have at hand, Russia, Ukraine crisis, and Nigerians are there, stranded, about 12,000 from what we gathered, students and residents in Russia, and then the government is talking about how to evacuate them from Russia back to the country, and then we have this.
I wish you didn't ask me. I wish you didn't ask me this question because I had a conversation with a friend of mine just last night in my home, and I was livid with anger. Really, very, very upset that we behave the way we do. There's this adage in my place that a scheduled war does not consume a crippled individual. I was speaking in vernacular. You may not understand, but I've just translated it to you. That aya kalaka adieli ngwolo. That's the Igbo version of it. Aya meaning war. Akaraka scheduled. Adieli ngwolo does not consume the crippled. That is to say, if you ring a bell and say, on this day, or estimatedly, between now and there, expect a war, the crippled will crawl and find somebody to carry him or her on the back and take him or her out of the scene of the expected war, isn't it? That's why we say, once it's scheduled, it's not something that erupted suddenly. The cripple cannot be consumed. How is it that for weeks, America particularly has been announcing to the world that Russia will invade? And then even when a whole lot of people had doubt, it got to a point. Hold on. It got to a point. They asked their own embassy officials to leave. For goodness sake, every responsible, serious-minded nation, at the point that a country like America got so convinced that war will break out and asked her own people to leave. If I were one of these individuals advising Mr. President, I would stare him in the eyes, Mr. President, our young ones are out there.
You're saying that we've not been proactive.
No,
with this.
no.
But what's the possibility of even evacuating 12,000 people, from Russia to Nigeria? Well, how is that possible?
No, government does not need to pay. What we need to provide is the logistics and the facilities, the airplanes, and announce that airplanes will be available. Parents of those children will pay. And what's more, for those of them that are enjoying scholarship, it behoves on those that offer them scholarship, who need them alive, by the way, to make those payments. So it wasn't going to place any financial burden on the government of Nigeria. Somebody somewhere was just too lousy, not thinking and not being proactive. And this hurts me, that we find people in positions of power. And Mr. President of Nigeria cannot do everything himself. It's a huge, huge job, huge task. People he's appointed to take care of, different operations of the nation should sit up and advise that this is going on in this part of the world, this is how it affects Nigeria, this is how it affects Nigerians, this is what we must do, and then you begin immediately to put plans in place. As America was announcing that her own people
were... this is almost taking everyone almost by surprise.
No, I don't accept that.
People never saw this coming this soon. I mean, I think the whole thing is that even if it were to come, maybe not this soon. And it's
I don't accept it, my brother. I don't accept it. Remember, on 3 different occasions, America announced that, because these guys have the technology, they have the satellite, they are watching every movement Russia was making. Russia itself is watching the entire world, and that's why it can warn people and say, hey, don't interfere. If you do, we have you know, the missiles that will get to you, you know, that sort of a thing. And look at them today. Is anybody lifting a finger? No, they're all speaking grammar, and they're talking about sanctions that never make the kind of impact. I mean, Iran has been living with sanctions and is still existing and making noise there. And, you know, so America announced in the first week that they were expecting that Russia would invade, you know, in 48 hours, and that failed. We taunted them. They announced the second phase. We taunted them. By the third phase, it happened.
All right, now this has already happened. All right, now let's talk about the way out. What can we do? Some of the airports in Kiev, for instance, have been shut, and then, you know, Nigerians in the eastern part of Ukraine are also, you know, raising, you know, that alarm. What can we do in the short term?
Oh, boy. Now, I do understand that Nigeria has, you know, good diplomatic relations with both countries that are warring at the moment. We have good relationship with Russia, as we do with Ukraine. It will take one of these individuals that fail to do their job to find a way to reach. It has to be done diplomatically. You have to reach these two nations and see if they can agree to a ceasefire for, say, 1 week. 1 week. So that the airports, you know, some of those airports have been hit very badly. You know, and some of them also have been taken over by, you know, Russian, you know, soldiers. And so if that kind of negotiation can be done, and then there's a truce for, say, about a week, within which world leaders will continue to speak to President Putin and see if it will be a permanent ceasefire. You know, otherwise, without a ceasefire, it is absolutely unsafe for any airplane to head towards any of those airports.
All right.
One overzealous soldier somewhere can decide to shoot down an airplane.
You just re-echoed one of the points that one of our guests.
It's the only way.
You know,
there are no two ways.
Yeah.
All right. At the moment.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning. We'll end the discussion here. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My pleasure.